Yes, the League of Creative Interventionists, so that's my fellowship in public art organization. And we essentially define brand and like design like programming with it. I'm Janelle. Yes. Reggie, nice to meet you. Yeah. My name is Janelle Dunlap. I'm a social justice creative. So I identify various aspects or issues within social justice and essentially seek to develop some kind of creative intervention or debate and creative installation of disruption of space, change in perception. I'm a complicated ass person.
What is art to you? Like, how would you define art?
I don't define art.
Don't define art. Why not?
Well, one, I'm a creative. Sometimes I'm an artist, but I'm a creative first. And I think art is really up to anyone's interpretation. Again, capoeira is an art form, but to some people, it's just self-defense. So for me, art is definitely an expression. It's an expression. It's a manifestation of how you perceive the world. So I guess my art isn't necessarily always the thing that you see. Sometimes it's the idea that brought the thing that you see. So do you have, sometimes you kind of like write things that come to your imagination? Yeah. Do you like journal or anything?
Yeah, I write journals.
So journaling is also kind of a form of art. So I wrote something like, I wrote that I wanted to see something like this in the space in my journal. And then I figured out what kind of people I want to help me with that. And that was your practical sense. Art is physical space. Sometimes art is also an expression, whether that be done through a human body or another form or another living form. Whatever that is, art is something that inspires and it recognizes a deeper value. So what they're doing right now is bearding.
Yeah.
So they're basically
What
just
was the
making
purpose of starting these bee farms?
the hives.
Yeah.
I was inspired for the reclamation project by Judge Shirley Fulton, African American female judge in North Carolina. So I hosted one of my first art shows at her house, and prior to that we were talking about doing some discussion behind my work, and she said that the biggest issue that she believed that kind of contributed to gentrification and like modern day displacement is our concepts of success meant leaving. It meant leaving and not reclaiming our native land. You know, not reclaiming our grandma's neighborhood or our parents' neighborhood because it was the hood. So what we really needed to start doing is reclaiming. We need to start reclaiming our ancestral lands, our ancestral spaces, because as long as we keep chasing this concept of success being separate from the communities we come from, then gentrification is just going to continue to evolve. So for the bees, it was the first thing that came to my mind because I was like, well, bees leave. Some bees leave the hive and they go to forage. They go to share where the resources are, and they come back and they do this little dance, and that dance tells you where the resources are. It tells you in what direction. So bees reclaim resources from outside, but they also go back to their home to use those resources to help establish their hive, to help the continuation and health of their hive. So when I think about reclamation, bees are a very natural manifestation of what that is, how that is expressed.
Major goals as far as your community engagement, the creative interventionist. What's the ideal satisfactory goal for you?
Straight up reparations. If I can inspire or just like creatively finesse society into giving us due reparations, that is the ultimate goal, and I plan to manifest that, or hope to plan and hope to manifest that in different ways. So right now it starts with reclamation. I think freedom is allowing, for me, it's allowing me to exist, spaces, people, opportunities that allow me to exist in my true self. I used to try to be a lot of different kind of people, and it never really worked out well for me, and I always had to return to myself. So freedom is just the capacity to live be yourself out loud. Well, I've always traveled as a kid. I think travel was the one thing that gave me access to different worlds, different realities, understanding that I guess all the awkwardness that I've always felt in myself, or just all the discomfort, that's oftentimes normal, and that's okay. Because going into new spaces requires that you be uncomfortable, that you not get so used to or tied down in routine. Because when you travel, that's always disrupted. So travel's allowed me to be more present and grateful for the spaces that I exist in. I'm not so much of a escape artist or a destination thrillist anymore, because I feel like, I don't know, space can always change. So what traveling does is it detaches that capacity to control, and I really learned to let go. I always give straight up honor to the women in my family and my great-grandmother. So my great-grandmother was one of the first black nurses to graduate with a registered nursing degree or credential in North Carolina, and the hospital where she accomplished that feat in 1939, but it was demolished in the 80s for construction of the Panther Stadium. So although the space was condemned and wasn't working well or properly, I kind of understood the value of space and legacy. That accomplishment was the thing that took my family out from being sharecroppers to being professionals. So every woman after my great-grandmother along our line of lineage has graduated from college and become a professional in her field, no matter what that field is. So what inspires me is to create my own lane, to not be afraid of being a trailblazer, not being afraid to think of a different future, not only for myself but for my descendants. I think about, what if my great-grandmother decided that becoming a nurse is too big for her? How much smaller that would have made her world and my world. So, my influence is the work and the achievement of my ancestors. So that's the thing that keeps me motivated, despite whatever bullshit comes up. I always know that as long as I'm working in their honor, I'm protected, I'm doing the right thing, and I'm satisfied in that.
Agriculture, growth, and things like that. Or is it pretty easy to grow things?
I mean, it's pretty easy for me to grow things. It's like being a visionary. It's like I can create, or I can sustain the seedling to maturity, but also as a creative or as a visionary artist, you have to be able to manage the weeds and manage the soil. There's so many other areas of it that need support other than just the growth process. So I think as a gardener, as a beekeeper, as a creative, me connecting all these things, I'm understanding now, I can have one hell of a harvest, but I need to have the focus and the discipline and the routine to clear out the land so that my plants, my projects can continue to grow. I can't just let them grow and go wild.